The next timing lever that we'll look at is debtor days. Debtor days is a measure of the average number of days that your customers take to pay you. A large debtor days number is the cause of poor cash flow for many businesses, especially small businesses. In earlier modules, we alluded to the fact that selling more increased volume is not necessarily the answer to negative cash flow problems in a business. We'll be explaining that in this module a little later on.
So let's look at some tips for how to improve our debtor days, which means reducing the number of days it takes to get paid. Have your customers pay you directly into your bank account. This reduces the amount of time that your money spends in limbo waiting to clear your account, whether that be internally sitting waiting to be banked, or whether it means that you have to wait for some other processes. Consider using deposits or upfront payments, charging as a subscription model, or progress payments. This brings the cash flow forward so that it's paid at an earlier part of the job. Make your terms and conditions as short as reasonable. Now, this means that if you actually think about it, you can bring your terms back to almost the day of transaction. Now, it's not reasonable if it's a large amount and you're expecting them to pay it within 3 days or within 7 days. So if it's a large amount, your terms and conditions are going to be longer than if it's a smaller amount. Consider using debt collection agencies. Debt collection agencies usually charge you a proportion of the total fee or invoice that they're trying to collect on, but they can take some of the internal frustration and the admin process out for your team. So it may actually be financially a better position to take. Also, you could consider debtor financing solutions. And what they are is they enable you to get your cash now, and that invoice then belongs to somebody else, and then they have to chase that invoice. Once again, they usually take a portion of your invoice. You can use automated invoice reminder systems, and many online accounting software programs actually offer these. Make it as easy as possible for your customers to pay you. Give them several options to pay. Remember, every day that you're carrying their debt, you are carrying their debt. Offer early payment incentives. Or conversely, create late payment penalties. Now let's have a look at some examples.
Simple policy and process changes backed up by automation can make a big difference to, or even eliminate, cash flow gaps that are caused by waiting for customer payments. A garage door installation and servicing business has about 60 customers each week. Most customers are private households, and many are new to the business with a number of one-off sales. When the tradesman finishes a job, he sends a text message to the owner, who then prepares and emails an invoice to the customer. Immediately, there is a big risk for cash flow leakage, likely to lead to admin time in chasing payment. The alternative is to get the tradesman to carry a tablet with a simple process to create an invoice at the end of the job, as well as a mobile payment collection system to swipe a credit card or take an EFT. The hottest time to get payment is when you're standing in front of the customer having just completed a job. And in the trades industry, it's not unusual to be collecting payment on the spot. So it's not going against an industry trend. Some businesses are better to sell less, in the short term at least. A surveying business that had been established for 40 years was turning over $2.3 million per year. Net profit was very healthy, varying each year, but always between 20% and 40%. But cash flow was always tight. A business health check showed that way too much cash was tied up in customer accounts and uncompleted jobs, work in progress. So much so that as the business sold more, the cash flow went backwards, meaning the owners were reaching into their pockets to fund increases in sales. And we're not talking about exponential or radical growth, just steady growth. Instead of the business funding its own way. Debtor days was averaging 95. That's 3 months of revenue tied up in what customers owed to the business. 1 year, it was even 142 days. Meanwhile, wages, rent, and other costs all have to be paid. In this business, just a 7-day reduction in debtor days was enough to turn cash flow from negative to positive without doing anything else. 3 immediate strategies were obvious for this business. 1, implement an online invoicing system. Statistics from online accounting software providers show that their customers who use online invoicing, even including links for credit card payment or EFT payment, experience shorter debtor days than other customers who don't use online invoices. 2, implement a comprehensive follow-up process and ensure it is followed. Automated reminders and phone calls. And 3, consider offering an early payment discount. Model the outcome on profit and cash flow in conjunction with the price lever. They could also consider a stop work policy for debts outside set terms with respect to amount and age. It can be difficult to change this habit with established customers, but can definitely be something to work towards and is easier to implement with new customers. Communication of policy changes is always important. Remember, it's your money. We all have bills to pay and deserve to be paid for our work. Does a truly virtual business have debtor days? What is a truly virtual business? Not just an online store of a physical business. For example, Genie's Hue or Mindvalley. The elements of a truly virtual business include automation and a digital product or service. Well, the answer is any business in which there is an invoice raised will have debtor days. They are simply the number of days it takes to have an invoice paid. However, many online businesses operate with the sale being transacted on a cash basis, meaning that they do not issue invoices. They just issue receipts for payments made when orders are placed. In some instances, however, an online business will still have debtors, particularly larger customers who have negotiated terms where they do not need to pay up front. Take, for example, online accounting software.
So in our power of one example, our case study business, we can see that unlike price, volume, overheads and cost of goods sold, reducing debtor days doesn't actually have any impact on operating profit, but it does have a considerable impact on cash flow. What this slide is showing us is that for every day sooner our debtors pay us, our cash flow is a little over $18,000 improved. This means that if we could take 2 weeks off our debtor days, we would actually be cash flow positive. So our takeaways: make it as easy as possible to be paid and offer payment options that bring payment forward as much as possible. The exercise for debtor days involves not just calculating the debtor days, but also determining your pricing and invoicing strategies around different types of customers who have different payment habits. Establishing strong criteria for what is permissible for invoicing can help your sales team offer competitive terms while still ensuring you are paid on time. So remember, if you want any help, you can contact us at hello@cashflows.com, or if you want to run your own numbers through the Power of One scenario tool, you can click on the link in the lesson below.